Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about the natal chart of Rush Limbaugh. Now, some of you may have heard he's recently been diagnosed. I believe it's like a lung cancer. So prayers do go out to him, and no one's. This is something that's, of course, very serious matter. And the thing about it is, he's also gotten some backlash on. I was looking on Twitter, and I'm sure this is going all over social media right now. Is that as far as Rush Limbaugh goes, has been denigrated for a lot of his controversial viewpoints, and there's some people that think that he's getting backlash or karma or whatever for all the derogatory remarks he's made about certain types of people or what have you. Got to understand everybody's entitled to their opinion on things. He's a little bit controversial. It's interesting. He's considered very conservative. He does have Mercury. A lot of this is attributed to his Mercury in Capricorn. It's a lot of communication pertaining to things associated with the government and politics. He's obviously an Aquarius rising. He's obviously has very strong viewpoints on this. What's interesting, his chart is a little bit of a paradox. Because it's a very strong contraindicator right off the bat when I look at it, the Sun in Capricorn and then the Aquarius ascendant. He's apparently conservative in his viewpoints, but the thing about it is the fact that he's Aquarius rising. I think the way a lot of this energy comes out, it comes out in such a way that's very unpredictable, and it's an erratic. It comes out in a way which really is not really that very orthodox, if you understand what I'm saying. It comes out in a manner that really shocks people and very surprising. I think it's the way he presents his viewpoints. It could be Aquarius is very shocking energy, of course. You understand what I'm saying. I'm sure in a lot of ways he really is a nonconformist, what he projects outwardly, having an Aquarius ascendant. He has a good balance of planets on the top and bottom half of his chart, which shows a good balance of gregariousness and extroversion and introversion and introspection, being subjective and objective, and really it really comes out to me when I look at this. When I look at him as chart, and right now, I looked at something with this chart now, being diagnosed with the lung cancer. Sadly, he does have Mercury conjunct his 12th house cusp. It's in the 11th house, but it's conjunct the 12th house of restrictions and limitations. And he does have it again retrograde. It's in a despondent sign of Capricorn, and Capricorn is the sign connected with restrictions. And Mercury does rule the lungs. And the thing about this too is he also has sadly, when he got this announced, the transit Sun, I believe, was right by his ascendant, so it's not shocking that there was going to be some light shine, so to speak, on some issues with the physical body. Now, the thing about this too is he's got a number of transit planets in his 12th house of secret sorrows and in the sign of that's connected with melancholy, despondency, dejection, Capricorn. Transit Saturn being in his 12th house right now is a time where he's really probably going through a lot of self-analysis, a lot of introspection. Transit Saturn in the 12th house can sometimes give really be a person being in a state of trepidation of the unknown and the unseen. And the thing is, he could put on, he's got Aquarius ascendant, so he probably's put in a very cool front and facade, but I think he's more scared of what's happening probably than he's actually showing. Now, also, too, he has, I believe, the Black Moon Lilith in Gemini, and I think that is in his 4th house of the end or latter part of life. And that being the case, remember, Gemini is connected with the lungs. Black Moon Lilith can be about suffering and tribulation, so it's an indicator that he may be going through some suffering at the end, the latter part of life, something connected with the lungs. He also has transit North Node in Cancer right by his right now very close proximity to his natal Uranus, and that is one of the rulers of his first house of the physical body. Uranus is in his sixth house of health in his natal chart. When we talk about the North Node in transit, it can be about issues that one may have to confront. And this could be about some very surprising health related issues. And it may be being in Cancer, might be hitting a little bit close to home than he's really showing people on the surface, and it could be one of a very emotional, more of an emotional situation right now with him. So anyway, and some other things too. I mean, the fact that there's a certain lack of moral, emotional support toward him, some of that could be indicated, I think, by his natal Saturn in his eighth house in his natal chart, and I think that could indicate some restrictions and limitations in moral and emotional support. I don't think he needs any monetary support. He's a renowned radio personality. He's one of the highest paid ones, if I'm not mistaken, according to Wikipedia.org. So money is certainly not an issue for him. Now I've noticed too in his chart he has the 10th and 4th house axis, those signs and the cusp on each of them are 21 degrees, critical degrees. The midheaven is at 21 degrees Scorpio, and remember they are critical degrees. It could be, some vengeful, vindictive people maybe impacting his reputation and public image. I think 21, you're talking about 21, 22 degrees. Sometimes all this can indicate is just that the energy is more pronounced and more prominent, but I think in a lot of cases it can give some tribulation and some strong adversity he may have to deal with. And also having Taurus at 21 degrees on the 4th house cusp of the latter part of life, this could be some stubborn-ish, persistent issues, trying issues that he may have to deal with at this point in time. In this case, it could very well be the lung cancer that he was diagnosed with recently. He had been diagnosed with it, I believe it was like January 20th, but he didn't reveal or unveil this till very recently. So anyway, there's really not much more to say. But another thing too, he's got the transit Pluto in his 12th house at this time, could indicate that death is something he might really be fearing more so than he's letting on superficially. It may be putting him in a stronger state of trepidation, really, than he's really willing to acknowledge. And transit Pluto in one's 12th house can also manifest in some cases about having dreams, sadly, that you may be dying. So maybe, I think this is actually hurting him and hitting him more close to home than he's acknowledging on the surface. And another thing too is he's got transit right now, transit Chiron and Aries in his second house of values. So this could have something to do with why he's dealing, maybe he's got to deal with some acrimonious energy in connection with his values, and it's maybe causing a little bit of suffering and some emotional suffering for him, perhaps at this point in time. It could be that maybe there's some suffering attributed to him being very outspoken, overly outspoken, perhaps regarding his values, since we're talking about transit Chiron and Aries in the second house. Now, another thing that I noticed in his in Rush Limbaugh's chart at this time, I mean, keep in mind we're talking about he's got, like, you can argue it's a long yod configuration, which is the moon conjunct the North Node in Pisces, and then the sextile to his sun in Capricorn, in both those energies making in conjunct to his 7th house Pluto in Leo. The Pluto in Leo is also a singleton. It's the only planet in fire in his natal chart, and it could take on more significance and more emphasis. This could show perhaps why he could be really very influential in terms of the influencing the public, the others in general, and doing so in a very extroverted way where there's a lot of attention getting energy at this time. I think it shows that he has a very strong power and influence over people and the public, others in general, and he's able to do this through an entertainment venue, having that Sun in Capricorn, which is about the focus on ambitions and career blended in. And then, of course, the moon in Pisces can give an emotional need for attaining one's dreams, one's ideals. So I think it's a very, very good energy and plays a very integral role in why he has been so successful and flourished in what he has done, despite being seen as controversial. So anyways, really not much more I want to say regarding his chart. It's just terrible what has transpired with him at this time. And the thing about it is, and also transit Neptune is not far from his north node at this time, so this could be, and also the ruler of his sixth house, which of course is the moon, because the sixth house cusp is in Cancer, moon is in Pisces. Transit Neptune is not really that far from his from that moon and then north node. So and of course Neptune can be connected with disease and weaknesses, so it could be issues he might have to confront regarding this at this point in time, and really in something that's become public because you have the moon involved, of course. So anyway, people, well, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment, as far as my take on Rush Limbaugh's chart. And until next time, people, Edwin Learnard saying stay well.